It was supposed to be the interview of the century, the one everyone would remember for decades. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry sitting across from the one and only Oprah Winfrey, surrounded by California sunlight and manicured gardens, ready to spill every royal secret that had haunted them. Cameras rolled, the world held its breath. And yet, behind those polished smiles and perfect camera angles, there were whispers. Sharp, nervous whispers among Oprah's crew. Something, they said, didn't look right. Something about Meghan's baby bump. A few crew members reportedly noticed that her belly shifted. Not just moved, shifted in strange, unnatural ways, as if it wasn't really part of her. A bump that seemed to fold or even deflate slightly when she bent over. They exchanged glances but said nothing. Because not long after that, every crew member was allegedly handed a paper, an NDA. A non-disclosure agreement that sealed their lips tighter than the Buckingham Palace gates. And here's where it gets even wilder. Rumors claim Oprah herself noticed it too. The queen of talk shows, the woman who built her empire by asking the questions no one else dared, supposedly wanted to bring it up during the interview. But Meghan stopped her cold. "This isn't the right time," she reportedly said. And Oprah, the woman who once got Tom Cruise to jump on her couch, backed down. So, the biggest interview of modern royal history might have left its biggest secret sitting quietly in the shadows. Because that wasn't just any bump. According to the gossip that's refused to die, Meghan Markle's pregnancy, especially the one with Archie, might not have been as natural as we were led to believe. Let's rewind to 2019. Meghan is glowing, her hand always resting protectively on her belly. The headlines gush about the royal baby. But beneath that royal sparkle, whispers were spreading faster than wildfire. Some people began claiming, brace yourself, that Meghan's baby bump was fake, that she wasn't pregnant at all, that the bump was a prosthetic, nicknamed in the tabloids as the moon bump crazy, right? At least that's what people said at first, but then came the photos, the ones where her belly looked square. Others where it seemed to slip lower than it should. There was even footage where it folded when she sat down. Internet detectives slowed down every frame, zoomed in, compared angles, and before long, the rumor had its own life. Now, to be fair, every woman carries differently. Bumps shift, clothes wrinkle, light plays tricks. But Meghan's every move was being scrutinized by a world already primed to doubt her. To them, the inconsistencies weren't quirks, they were clues. And so, moon bump became a global obsession. Still, officially, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was born on May 6, 2019 at 5:26 a.m. The paperwork was real. Portland Hospital in London confirmed the birth. Everything lined up. But even solid documents couldn't silence a rumor that fed off distrust. People didn't want proof. They wanted truth, or at least the feeling of uncovering it. And when the palace messed up the timeline, announcing that Meghan had gone into labor after Archie had already been born, it was like gasoline on the gossip fire. If they were willing to fudge that detail, what else could they be hiding? To make matters worse, Meghan and Harry broke from royal tradition. No hospital steps photo op, no red carpet baby reveal like Diana or Kate. Instead, they chose privacy. A small photo call in Windsor Castle days later. It was quiet, intimate, and to some, suspiciously controlled. And just like that, the moon bump theory wasn't just a fringe rumor, it was royal folklore. Fast forward to March 7, 2021. The air crackled with anticipation. Oprah, Meghan, Harry, the tell-all that promised to break centuries of silence. The garden glowed, birds sang, but the tension was thick enough to slice. When Oprah asked about royal life, Meghan's face softened, then hardened. She spoke about pain, about feeling trapped, about the palace shutting her out. And then came the sentence that set the world ablaze. "There were concerns," she said carefully, "about how dark Archie's skin might be." Oprah froze. "What?" she gasped, eyes wide. "Who is having that conversation with you?" Meghan didn't name names. She said it would be too damaging. That moment changed everything. Overnight, the interview turned from a royal exposé to a racial reckoning. The palace issued its carefully worded response. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously. Ah, those 4 words. Some recollections may vary. Polite but sharp. The royal way of saying, "We don't agree with your version of events." And once again, doubt seeped in. If the palace was questioning Meghan's story about race, then critics asked, what else might she have exaggerated? The moon bump rumor got a second life. 2 years later, in 2023, Harry released his memoir, Spare, and started doing interviews again. This time his tone was different. "I never said my family were racist," he told ITV's Tom Bradby. He explained it was about unconscious bias, not racism. Cue the collective gasp. Wait, what? For 2 years, people believed Meghan had exposed racism in the royal family. Now Harry was saying that wasn't the word he'd use? Critics pounced. Why didn't he say that back in 2021? Why let the world think otherwise? To Meghan's doubters, this was proof of something deeper, a pattern of changing stories, strategic silences, and shifting narratives. Was this about truth or image? Either way, the damage was done. The Oprah interview, once hailed as a groundbreaking moment, now looked tangled, contradictory, and incomplete. And that uncertainty only made the old rumors feel more alive than ever. Then came the whispers from New York. February 2019, Meghan's lavish baby shower at the Mark Hotel. Serena Williams, Amal Clooney, Gayle King, the glitz, the glamour. It was pure Hollywood meets royalty. But even that became gossip fodder. Whispers claimed Meghan had accidentally left her prosthetic bump behind during one of her private outings that week. Of course, there's zero proof, no photo, no confirmation, but the story stuck like glitter on a sequin dress. Soon, tales surfaced of aides finding discarded bumps at Frogmore Cottage. Can you imagine? The image of fake bellies lying around a royal home? It sounds absurd, but in gossip world, absurdity only makes it juicier. Then came the infamous footage. January 2019, at a charity visit to Mayhew Animal Shelter. Meghan bends to pet some dogs. It's a sweet moment, but critics freeze-framed it. They swore her belly shifted unnaturally, even snapped back. The video was real. The movement? Up for debate. Normal fabric stretch or a moon bump malfunction? Depends who you ask. Years passed, and the rumor refused to die. Why? Because silence is gossip's oxygen. The palace's mistakes didn't help. Announcing labor after birth, editing Meghan's name on the birth certificate, keeping everything shrouded in privacy. Meghan and Harry's insistence on doing things their way clashed with centuries of royal openness. Every act of control looked like secrecy. Maybe Meghan really just wanted peace. Maybe she was protecting her baby. But to the world, every silence sounded like confirmation. Fast forward again. Years have passed. Meghan's now in California, raising Archie and Lilibet under the Pacific sun. Palm trees instead of palace walls. Yoga mats instead of tiaras. Either way, silence became the story, and in Hollywood and the monarchy, silence always sounds suspicious. Still, there's a part of the world that sympathizes. They see Meghan not as a schemer, but as a survivor. A woman who entered the most powerful family on earth and got chewed up by it. They say she never stood a chance. That the moon bump rumor, the palace coldness, the public cruelty, all of it was just society's way of punishing a woman who refused to play the role they wanted her to. And when Oprah sat there, eyes wide, saying, "What?" in that iconic moment, it wasn't just shock, it was recognition. The realization that this wasn't just a royal problem, it was a reflection of power, privilege, and prejudice, and the stuff nations are built on and broken by. But here's the twist. When Harry later said it wasn't racism, just unconscious bias, the story didn't heal. It fractured. People didn't know what to believe anymore. The lines blurred between truth, spin, and survival. And in that confusion, the moon bump myth found its perfect home. A half-believed rumor in a world that no longer trusts anything completely. So what's the truth? The birth certificates say Archie was born at Portland Hospital. The doctors' names are on record. The timeline, the official announcements, they're all documented. But facts don't always win against feelings. Because when something feels off, when the smiles look too polished, when the timelines don't match, when the camera cuts too soon, people fill in the blanks themselves. They build their own versions of the truth. And once that happens, no official document in the world can compete with the thrill of a whispered secret. That's why, years later, the moon bump theory still lingers like perfume on old velvet. It's not about what happened, it's about how it felt. It felt strange, it felt secretive, it felt like a royal fairy tale gone rogue. And people don't want to let that feeling go. Because scandal, real or imagined, gives everyone something to believe in, even if it's not true. Imagine being Meghan, every smile dissected, every gesture twisted, every pregnancy photo turned into a debate. To live under that microscope would crush anyone. But Meghan kept smiling, kept speaking in calm, measured tones, kept calling for compassion, even as the world picked her apart. To some, that grace under fire made her look fake. To others, it made her look heroic. Either way, it made her unforgettable. And maybe that's what the monarchy couldn't handle. A woman who could control her own story better than the institution ever could. Because when Meghan sat down with Oprah, she didn't just tell her truth. She rewrote the rules of royal storytelling. And when she stopped Oprah from asking about that bump, if she really did, maybe it wasn't fear or deceit, maybe it was power. A quiet way of saying, not this time. Not my body, not your business. In the end, the palace stayed silent. Oprah stayed silent. Meghan never looked back. And maybe that's the point. Because sometimes silence isn't guilt. Sometimes it's survival. Still, that silence left room for everyone else to speak. YouTubers, bloggers, tabloids, self-proclaimed royal experts. They filled that empty space with noise, and now the noise has become the story. People say truth is powerful, but in this saga, it's the mystery that won. Because what do we remember more? The facts or the feelings? The record or the rumor? Today, Meghan and Harry live thousands of miles away from the palace that once defined them. Their children play in California gardens, far from royal courtyards. But even here, in their quiet mansion by the sea, the whispers still reach them. Every time Meghan steps out in public, the questions return. Every new photo sparks 1,000 theories. Every silence becomes a headline. The moon bump story has turned into something much bigger than a rumor. It's become royal mythology, a legend born not of truth, but of obsession. The kind that never really ends. Because once a story like that escapes into the world, it doesn't belong to the people it's about anymore. It belongs to everyone. To every fan, critic, and stranger who's ever clicked "Watch Next." And so the story circles back to where it began, that warm California day when Oprah leaned in, her eyes full of curiosity, her instincts screaming that there was more beneath the surface. But she never asked, and Meghan never answered, and that unspoken question still floats in the air like perfume after the star has left the room. Maybe Oprah stayed silent out of respect. Maybe Meghan wanted to protect her peace. Or maybe, just maybe, some secrets aren't meant for television, because the real drama isn't in what was said, it's in what wasn't. Epilogue, the echo that never fades. Years from now, people will still talk about that interview. They'll remember the birds, the garden, the tears, and the silence. They'll quote the lines, replay the clips, analyze every glance. And somewhere, deep in that story, the moon bump rumor will still live, not as proof, not as truth, but as an echo. Because the royal family runs on tradition, but the world runs on stories. And Meghan Markle's story, love, rebellion, silence, and scandal, might just be the most unforgettable of them all. Maybe she lied, maybe she didn't. Maybe the truth was always more complicated than either side would ever admit. But one thing's for sure, she changed the way the world looks at fairy tales, and sometimes the most powerful secrets are the ones we never hear spoken aloud. Never hear.